reset it to that classic one we had, and then just keep it with that.
Oh, I have a copy somewhere. You managed to sort it out?
Yeah.
What was it? Just a
I was
figure?
listening to the wrong screen,
Oh, okay.
basically.
Yeah. That's just from the rules. So.
to introduce you to our next panel session of the afternoon. We have the amazing and fantastic film director Mo Ali here today. Thank you, Mo, for coming. It's wonderful. And Mo has directed 2 feature films to date. Is that correct, Mo?
Yep.
And we're going to show you some trailers of those movies in a moment when the chairs are ready. May I introduce the chairs, which is Pablo Brown-Jennett and Alexandra Shipman, and they were students of mine on the BFI Future Film Academy a couple of years back. So they've kindly volunteered to chair today. So take it easy on them. So I guess we'll introduce Mo and his movies, and he'll tell us a little bit about things, and we'll let Pablo and Alex ask a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So I look forward to meeting you all personally, properly, at 3 o'clock when we have our networking event back in the Blue Room. So I look forward to that, and I'll pass you on to Pablo and Alex. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm Alex, and today we're going to be talking to Mo Ali, who is the director of Shank and Montana. And
Bass. So we're going to be talking to you a little bit about your career and how you've got to where you are today, and just what these guys can do to get to that stage in their career as well.
Fantastic.
So we're just wondering how you got started. Like, what was your starting point for when you started making filmmaking?
I mean, the way I started, obviously, as a young kid, very young. I mean, I'm one of 7 in my family, so obviously, there's not much attention to the middle kid. So what I did was I used to just sit down and watch films from a really young age. I mean, from the age of 4, so you could imagine, my mum looking after 7 kids, and I'm the middle kid, just literally being planted in front of a television, watching films like Rambo, even Nightmare on Elm Street. 4 years old, was just obsessed at watching television. She just knew, she could spend her whole day cleaning and stuff and looking after other kids, and I would be planted in front of the television and not move. So it really kind of, my obsession with film was very early, and from then on, I started to kind of, hang about in my local area where, has anybody heard of Stanley Kubrick? Anybody heard of Stanley Kubrick? Have you heard of a film called Metal Gear? Is it Full Metal Gear? I think it's called
Full Metal Jacket.
Right. You guys have to remember I'm dyslexic, so I'm really bad at names, right? So anyway, that film, he shot it where I grew up. So as a young kid, about your age, I used to kind of hang about in that location. This is many years after he shot it, but again, as a film geek, I would kind of break into that location because nobody was allowed to go there. But me and my friends would break in there and hang about and just kind of geek out. And then one day, this film director just stopped us and kind of hired us as runners on set. And from then on, I just fell in love with film. I just learned everything about being on set, cameras, lights, sound, little things that directors do. I just pretty much got obsessed with that. And from the age of, 15 till, 30, I'm a filmmaker. That's it. Just love for it.
Okay, so you've spoken about watching a lot of films. Are there any films or genres or even specific filmmakers that really influenced you and the stuff you're making today?
Yeah, I mean, very early age, films like Rambo, which I've said, Terminator, what else? Alien, those kind of films as a young, kid, I would be obsessed with them. But the older I got, the more I got into kind of Hitchcock, more I got into kind of like classic noir films. Even Stanley Kubrick, the way he makes his films, I'm really kind of a big fan of that. But really, like, the directors I love are Ridley Scott, because he's the type of director I kind of want to be. He started off from commercials, and I've kind of started off from music videos. And I kind of aspire to be like him because, as a young director like him, he started in the 60s and he's still making films now. And for me, as a young filmmaker, the way I got into it was music videos. Do you guys listen to grime music videos? Do you guys listen to grime? So I used to do videos for like Lethal B, Skepta, Jammer. I don't know if you guys heard of him. Yeah? Okay, cool. Made me sound older for a second. But I used to do a lot of grime stuff. I used to film with Lord of the Mic. So for someone like Ridley Scott, he started from that kind of commercial visual genre, and that's how I started off. And he's always consistent, and that's what I love about him. So he's the type of kind of filmmaker I kind of aspire to be.
Okay.
I've just remembered that if everyone as well, because this is being live streamed today, if you can kind of get on the BFI, tweet this out, make sure loads of other people watch it and sort of hear all the interesting things, because it can really help other filmmakers and stuff. So yeah, if you can do that for us, that'd be great as well. But I was just wondering, like, in your life, was there like a defining moment where you was like, I have to be a filmmaker, this is what I have to do?
Yeah, I think it was in college. It was, I mean, before I got to college, I didn't have any GCSEs, so, you know, the whole kind of me hanging around this Stanley Kubrick location and being hired as a runner and seeing this director, you know, direct, that was one of the key points in my life when I went, I want to do this. The trouble was, I didn't have any GCSEs. And at that time in college, I don't know if they do it now, but if you don't have any GCSEs at that time, you can't go into college. So what I would do is I'd hound my the head teacher of the college every single day. I used to ring him up and apply for media studies, and he got so angry with me by week 4 that he literally went, come in, sat me down, he went, right, a kid left, I'm going to replace him with you, but do not mess it up. And then like an idiot for 2 years, I messed it up, you know? But my teacher, who's my mentor and my good friend now, Anton California, he sat me down and he taught me about this surrealist movement, you know, Dadaism. Have anybody heard of that? It's kind of like David Lynch, you know, Salvador Dali kind of visual, very kind of surreal. And he was like, look, this is going to be your last year, experiment and do something. And I went off and shot this thing where we had like 21 cameras. And I got all the cameras from the local Newham Borough, all the colleges from Newham Borough. You know, I was that dedicated. I was just so kind of ambitious. I was like, I don't want 2 cameras. I want to recreate the Matrix effect, you know, the bullet time. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to go out. So I got all these cameras from all these different colleges, lined them up, jumped in the air myself, hit the concrete, dislocated my shoulder. Went in the edit suite 2 weeks later, sat down and I saw the footage and it looked incredible. And I thought to myself, just by thinking about it and, you know, logistically putting it together, whatever I had in my mind, I made. And immediately I just fell in love with just, you know, if you think about it, you can make it. And that was one of the defining moments where I was like, you know what, I could actually be a director, you know. It's my passion that got everybody to come together. It's my, you know, teamwork, effort that got the vision across. The logistical headache of bringing all these cameras, you know, it was just came from this idea as a director, and by executing it, whether it's good or bad doesn't matter, but by just doing it and editing it and seeing how it affects people, it just got me hooked. And that's when I realised this is what I want to be for the rest of my life, and do.
All right, so...
By the way, did it answer it? Good.
I got it.
I tend to waffle on, alright? Go on.
So, we've got the trailer for your first feature film, Shank, which we'll show you in a second. After we've seen the trailer, do you want to talk us through what your experience was with first getting to the point where you could make Shank, and then sort of what you learned from it as an experience? Mm-hmm. So, can we see the trailer for Shank?
Any moment now, we're streaming.
You're my brother. You know I love you, right? Kids killing kids everywhere now, it's getting out of control. Stay away from the block, blood. These guys are reckless, Junior. Why are you running for? We just want to talk to you. Bro, that's my brother, man. You're not mad. What are you gonna do, huh? Go and kill him. Today. I'm not killing anyone. I just hear this is real. Junior! You didn't kill me.
Yeah.
So talk to us about your what the process was with Shank.
How it all started was, before I was approached to direct this film, I said I did music videos, and I was very prolific with that. And Revolver Entertainment, who kind of made the production company behind it, were looking for directors. And one of the producers kind of rang me up, was like, Mo, would you come in for an interview, because we're looking for directors to do this film? And I was like, what do you mean? It was like, it's a feature film. I went, I've never made a feature film. And plus I'm, 27, 20, And he was like, no, don't worry about it, just come over. So I turned up, and as I walked into Revolver Entertainment, this 45-year-old director came out from the interview, and it was kind of like, I knew that, kind of back in my head, I knew maybe they're going to go for an older, more mature director than this young kid. Everybody has slight doubts, right? So I sit down and I'll go to, and in my head I went to myself, you know what? No matter what happens, I'm just going to sit down and tell him how I see the film and just be me, okay? I'm not going to cater to anybody. I'm still young. I've still got a long way to go. My plan is to make my first film by 30. I'm way ahead of schedule, so I'm not afraid to tell him how I feel about the story and what I want to do. So obviously I sit down and I go to him, right, I want this film to be set in 2015. I want futuristic looks. I want to get, Kida, Bashi, all these guys in. And they just sat back and they were like, okay, we'll call you. So I left the office, the meeting, thinking to myself, oh my God, I've just ruined this meeting. They're going to hire the older guy. But because of my passion and the way I said it, they rang me up the next day and said, look, we'll offer you this film. And then, it took me a day and a half to really sink that in. Because my background was, I always made stuff that is no longer than 3.5 minutes, all my life. So imagine someone turning around saying, we're going to give you money and you're going to make a 90-minute film, So I was like, shit, sorry for swearing. I was like, darn, golly. I thought to myself, my God, I'm going to make a 90-minute feature film and have character arcs, character development, plus stunts, plus costume. I thought to myself, you know what, I mustn't mess it up. So for about a month and a half, I told the guys, like, look, give me a month and a half to go away and break this story down. And normally, in a feature film, you don't have, it's not even a month. You take years to make a film, as a director, that's what you have. But for this, we didn't have any time. They were like, you got 2 months and we're going to start filming. So I had to go away, and the way I work is I storyboard everything, I color code it, so I just went to myself, my inner voice as a director went, you know what, the only way I'm going to make it is to work with my close team, I always say, when you make a film, whatever thing you've offered, always work with your team, because they're the ones that got you here. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and bring as much of my team members that I've worked with from my music video days, the guys that pretty much brought me here with that look and style, I'm going to bring them into this feature film, because you know why, I trust them. I could look across the set and go, you know what, that guy's not going to mess me up, or that girl, because I know, they'll back me. So that was one thing. The next thing is to prep. So I prepped the hell out of it, in terms of shot list, in terms of production design, in terms of just working with actors on the day, And don't get me wrong, the first day of shoot, like I'm sure as all directors, your first day of shoot, you are, pretty much scared, aren't you? Everybody gets it. My first day of shooting a feature film, I was petrified. But the thing was that kept me, comfortable and, in self-control is knowing, you know what, I was born to do this. I have a good team. I've prepped, and you can see it. It's not my story, but visually, it's strong. It can't be matched. I'm not being cocky or anything, but I'm very proud of that, because you know what, that's the first film that I've ever made in my life, and for it to go on a, box office chart and stuff like that, that was just happy for me, And I learned a lot in terms of working with actors, working with crew, Working with actors is kind of an interesting thing, because they're very, they're not needy, but they're very kind of vulnerable, you have to remember. And I had to work with 5 or 6 young kids. So imagine them, they have to come on set, you've got cameras, you've got camera crew, tired crews and stuff like that, and they've got to come on set and perform. So you got to give them trust, but also positive energy. But with the crew, you've got to kind of almost not be firm, but tell them your vision, your style, but also allow them to kind of express themselves, So if they've got ideas, you got to take it on board. And it's very political sometimes, But yeah, learning about this film was kind of it was one of the greatest experiences as a filmmaker I've had, and I wouldn't change nothing about it.
And with Shank as well, you had some known cast in there, like you had Kaya, who's now in Hollywood,
Yeah.
and some actors from This Is England. Was any of that kind of intimidating?
No, the thing for me is like how I work with actors. My number one thing is like I don't kind of do the whole fancy thing. Let's go to a hotel, like restaurant, and eat food and blah 5-star crap like that. No, I want to take you to a fry up, sit down, make it normal like a human being. Have this like I like to kind of have this bond immediately with them. The only way I could do that is be normal with them, treat them like normal human beings, because you know what, that trust and that bond, you have it on set every day. You know what I mean? If I start treating them like stars, what would happen is they'll think, not above themselves, they never do, none of them, but the pressure's on them to deliver, But if you treat them like friends and stuff like that, they'll do a take and they could just literally look behind the camera at me and I'll look back and go, we'll have little kind of micro language, I call it, we'll just look at each other, we'll understand what we're talking about and we'll do it again and fix it, And how I do it is just hang out with Kaya, Michael Sucker, Bashi, and just treat them like family, really. Just eat lunch together, have coffees, go for not long walks like couples, or anything like that. But just hang out and just be normal, The more and plus give them trust, And once you give them that, you get their performances incredibly, you see it on camera.
So after Shank, you went on to direct Montana, as your second feature. So we have a trailer for that, if we can show it, and then we'll have a little talk about it after.
Yeah.
Straight there, straight back, yeah? Straight there, straight there. Kid knows everything. I want him found and killed.
They betray you.
We need to fight back. You need to train me.
There is no coming back. You understand?
Put your hands up. Can I testify? God, when you witness if you ride or die. No one says a lie. Testify.
You ready?
Never fought well.
You will feel remorse when you kill your enemy. Do not linger on it. Do not question your purpose.
You betrayed me.
Directing your second feature, and what did you sort of learn from your first one that you could apply?
Well, I mean, after Shank, normally as a director, what you want to do is pick up another job straight away and keep busy. But because, again, my age and, ultimately directors, you meet them, they're normally in their 40s, 60s. I always believe, like, being a director, your prime is going to be, for me, I think, would be in my 40s to 50s, because that's when you learn life, You learn the experience of being a human being, emotion, you read more, you travel. I think that's really one of the important things about being a director. It's not just having this kind of cocoon thing. You've got to travel life. And from that experience, you can put it into your films. And what I did after Shank was I just kind of literally had to sit down and go, you know what? I kind of made a film for the first time, first film ever, but I kind of not got away with it, but I made it and I'm proud. But you know what? I know my own flaws. I know what I need to improve on, So what I did was, instead of picking up other jobs, I decided, go back and educate myself again, So I spent 2.5 years just hanging out on set, meeting up with older directors, older producers. Just because I've made a film doesn't mean I know everything. You learn every single day, and you have to pursue that. You have to chase knowledge, You're going to go out there and learn about everything. Technology changes, storytelling changes, techniques changes, and I wanted to go out there and learn about that. So for 2.5 years, I went out, met directors, producers, location managers, production designers, just to get more knowledge. It's not about confidence, it's just for me to kind of go, you know what, I was wet behind the ears, and now I want to be experienced, and that's one of the things I wanted to have. But also, you know, it's show business, and there's a business side to it, okay? And you guys have to learn this. So I spent 2 years sitting down with lawyers, you know, accountants, executive producers, understood the business, okay, about your contracts as creatives, you know, your rights, your point systems, what happens when a film gets sold internationally. You know, I wanted to learn every single aspect of filmmaking, not just the creative side, but the business aspect of it, you know. And with that kind of knowledge, nobody could not mess with you. You're comfortable, you know, because in this business sometimes there are sharks, there are people who take advantage of young creatives and try to sell a film internationally and never give you money, you know. I know a lot of directors that got burnt because of this, and I decided not to let that happen to me. But the next thing was, I wanted to make an action film. So for that, I wanted to watch films and hang out and just kind of watch films like Leon. Anybody seen Leon? I love Luc Besson, you know. Luc Besson was my hero, still is. So Leon was a film that I wanted to make. So I thought, you know what, after the 2 years of experience, I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna sit down with a friend of mine. We wrote this script within like a month and a half, and I was like, I want to do Karate Kid meets Leon. So we sat down. That's silly, right? But that's what being a director is. You just got to come up with it and just put it on paper and see if it goes. And it's looked right. We sat down with one of the executive producers of King's Speech. He bought the rights. And he was like, Mo, do you want to direct it? And I was like, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, what the hell, let's do it, you know? Because I felt good about it. And then within 8 months, we started to raise the money. And then we got people like Lars Mikkelsen. I don't know if you guys heard of him. Have you heard of Lars? From House of Cards. And then we got Michelle Furley from Game of Thrones, Lady Stark, and then Ashley Walters, obviously, and Adam Deacon, and Mikhail, we discovered, young actor. So it's really, ultimately, it was a case of, you know what, I want to make an action film. You know, I've never made one. I have no fear about it now after having that experience of being, you know, the education of 2.5 years. Let's go out and have fun, you know, and we made it.
Okay, you touched a little bit there on the fact that you co-wrote Montana, but you didn't actually take part in the writing of Shank. So how did that affect did you have a relationship with the writer on Shank, or was it just given to you?
It was given to me, basically. Shank was kind of, it was a marketing film in a sense, you know. The first script that they gave me was, you know, I'm not going to call it terrible, but it was just, if a young kid watched it, they would just go, who the hell is this writer? Who wrote it? It must be a 40-year-old white guy who lives in Notting Hill, who has no understanding about the streets. Do you see what I mean? And Revolver did that. So I came in, I was like, look, I want to set it in the future. I want to have pure language. I want to have the actors come up with their own words. But, you know, ultimately they wrote it, you know. What I wanted to have for Montana is my own creative control. You know, it's that. Not, you know, still coming up, but it's being comfortable going, you know what, this is my idea, this is what I want to work with. And we had that with Montana. So Shank was kind of, it was a paid, hired job, but the more I worked on it, the more control I had in terms of visual, story, plot, and stuff like that. But it's still their writer.
Okay.
You know?
And I guess our final question is, what are you working on now?
Do I have to talk about it? I'm working on a desert story right now. It's basically, anybody read The Alchemist? Again, it's like 2 London films. I want to go out and shoot in the desert. So it's about a story about a kid who becomes a shepherd, who has to herd goats through the desert and goes through life-changing experiences. Because again, as a director, I feel I don't want to be cocooned doing the same thing, okay? And Shank, obviously, it's an urban film, and you're going to get classed as an urban director, you know? So you got to take it on board. But Montana, yes, it looks urban and stuff, but it's more of a father and son story. And I always say, don't let anybody pigeonhole you, you know? Keep your material different, you know? I always did it with my music videos as well. I didn't just shoot a bunch of guys in a corner shop going, yo, 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 you know? I try to shoot it with fashion, studios, lighting, costumes and stuff like that. So this last, you know, new film that I'm doing is totally off genre. Not urban, nothing. It's more drama. It's more kind of, anybody seen The Fountain? Darren Aronofsky. Yeah, it's more kind of weird, surreal stuff like that. But yeah, it's a new direction. It's more exciting, and hopefully we shoot at the end of the year.
And sort of collectively, from all your career and all of that, what have you learned that you're probably going to apply to this new feature, but maybe kind of everyone in the room can apply to their own
I think the number one thing I learned is just having good people around you, you know, having good team members, you know, that you believe in, that believe in your concept, because that's the only way a good film is made, you know. Even though you guys are all creators and directors, you know, just being a dictator just never makes a really good film, you know. And yeah, sure, you get a lot of pressure and stuff like that, but I always believe, like, if you have a good team of people that you trust, the work looks beautiful, I think, you know. The work looks amazing, and you feel good about it, you know. So I always say find the right people that you want to work with, you know. And the next thing I would say is you guys are very young now. You know, this whole room here, you guys can make a whole feature right now, all of you guys. I'm sure there's a writer, there's an editor, there's a sound guy, there's a producer, there's an actor. Do you see what I mean? This whole room, you can make a whole feature, right? In fact, you got 2 cameras here, you can make a feature right now. Do you know what I mean? It's that attitude you guys should have all the time, is meet people, go, okay, can I work with them? Let's have a coffee. You know, guarantee within 5 years' time, the same people will see each other. The right same people. That means the people that are dedicated, that are up for networking, that are up for kind of like swapping ideas, helping each other out. Within 10 years after that, you guys become an establishment. You know, you guys are going to be sitting here and doing these Q&As. So the advice I'd say is just crack on with it, you know, and just don't be afraid to kind of network. Am I talking too fast? No? Good. All right, cool.
All right, we're going to open it up to you guys now. So if you've got any questions, any queries, to ask Mo, you are welcome to. I'm not sure, there is a mic coming around, so wait for that to get to you. We have a lady in the third row.
We have one at the back as well. There's a microphone coming to you.
I think I'm loud. Can you hear me?
We're just going to go and then we'll go to you.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, for your features, did you do any rehearsals with the actors before?
Funny enough, Shank, we had a rehearsal, you know, which was crazy. Shank only had like a I think 5-day rehearsal, because the shoot was just kind of very rushed. It was I think a 4-week shoot. Montana, weirdly enough, was a 11-week shoot, and there was no rehearsal. No rehearsal and the budget was, I think, 1.7 million. Okay, and there was no rehearsal. The trouble was, all these actors just couldn't give me or the producers time to come in for rehearsals. So there was just no time. These guys are filming other stuff, they're flying around the world, doing other films, other commercials. So I could not honestly get them in the same room. So again, it came down to the trust of me going, you know what, the minute you're here on set, you got your costume, you got your makeup on, you know your lines, I'm going to trust you to bring your A game. Because I've had coffees with you, I've had chats with you, you know? And with Montana, it was it was a bit of a risk, but it came out. But again, it's, you know, having that trust in your actors. So, but I always say rehearse, you know. But these guys were very busy. We just couldn't get a window, but it kind of came out well.
Yeah, sorry, you know in Shank when there's that chase scene between the guy on the bike. Sorry for spoilers for anyone else who hasn't watched it. And Keita Williams Sterling. Did he do his own stunts, or was that stunt double?
What, the bit where he jumps off?
Yeah, off the
He did his own stunt. What we did was we got a huge crane. This is the thing. The good thing is about being a director, sometimes you could just go, I want a horse in the middle of the housing estate, which we got for Shank, you know? So whatever you could come up with, if there's budget, you could do it. And I was like, you know what? I wanted to jump off this big kind of like concrete kind of walk area. And the only way we could do it was through wireworks. But because we were right next to this flats, we couldn't get the wireworks to work. So we had to bring in this huge crane, you know, 400-foot bloody, you know, metallic thing that we had to dangle Keita from. And it was crazy, you know. So he did his own stunt, which is good for him. And he was not scared once. This is how I rate him, you know. He just was like, I'll do it. I trust the stunt guys. They showed him one rehearsal where like he jumps and they just kind of wince him in. You know, and he just didn't scream nothing. He just laughed it off, and he did it again. So, big up Keita. Big up Keita!
Question down here.
Thank you. How do you find working towards the time restrictions of a schedule? Do you feel it like dampens your creative control? Do you find it actually helps?
Oh, I mean, I always kind of like plan ahead every, you know, in the morning. This is how you work. You come on set at 7. You finish around, say, like 12 a.m. You know, and then you probably leave set for around 1:30, 2, you get home for 3, and you get up at 5. So you only have 2 hours or an hour and a half of sleep, you know? And how I do it is, when I turn up on set, I look up the schedule of what I'm shooting, and I'll have my shot list, and I'll literally kind of go, I'll highlight what I need, but if I'm pushed for time, I know what I'm going to lose. Do you see what I mean? So I plan ahead. Do you see what I mean? No matter what, there's always things that are going to happen. Like, for instance, Mikhail in Montana, I think the second day of shooting, he had an allergic reaction to the makeup. And the whole day we were going to shoot with him. So the second day of shooting. So imagine your lead actor being rushed to hospital. And we're sitting there twiddling our thumbs for about 8 hours, you know? And that day was probably going to cost us $5,500, maybe 10, you know? So what I did was, I was like, you know what, let's go do pickup. So we shot the whole city. Because we were going to do that in day 20. So, you know, you just got to cover yourself. And in terms of kind of being pressured, that's what part of directing sometimes is, you know? It's handling it, knowing, you know, okay, people are screaming and shouting because time's running out, but I still want to get my shot. Do you see what I mean? It's having that comfortability going, you know what, in your head, does that shot really help the film? If that shot helps the film, then stand your ground and go, you know what, I'm not moving until I get that shot or that performance, you know? And a good producer, a good team go, you know what, we believe that. If they don't believe that, then they'll F them off, you know? So stand your ground if you're being pressured, you know? If you want to get that shot, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be in an edit suite, months later, looking at it and going, you know what, I should have said I want one more take. That's the last thing you want to be as a director, you know? Be in an edit suite going, I should have done one more shot, one more angle. If you get like that, you're finished, okay? So, politely stand your ground, not rudely, alright?
Alright.
Next question.
Alright, we've got one along here and then another one a couple rows ahead.
I was just, the first clip, it looked really like artistic and really engaging and more like real, and the second one was more kind of like Hollywood, you know, I'd say a bit more like not superficial, but in a way.
Thanks.
No,
get out.
In a
Can we
way,
get out?
like what people kind of expect more to see, like, because the first one, I'd say would be classed more as kind of indie looking, but for me, I'd say that's what I prefer more. And now, like British cinema, I think it's kind of so. It kind of gets a little bit niche at times, and that film like completely is cast away as what I see like British cinema. So like, what do you think we can do as like an industry, as a country, because our film industry is completely undermined compared to like French or American or whatever. So what do you think we can do as a country, as an industry, as a whole corporation to like change how people see British cinema, so it's not just white middle class, posh people,
Well, I mean, just to answer the first one, which you thought the difference between Shank and Montana. Montana was a difficult film to make and get invested because, they don't. It's not they don't want it. It's just to make another urban action film. They didn't believe in it. So you may think it's Hollywood and gloss. That film took, I may say it sounded very quick to make, but it struggled for a couple of months because nobody thought, why do urban kids want to do an action film? My angle was I want to have young kids from London doing action, kicking ass. Hollywood could do it with kick ass. Why can't I do it? Do you see what I mean? Montana's more independent than Shank. Shank had more marketing power and push. Even though it looks gritty and stuff, the P&A spend on Shank was nearly, I think, $250,000. Same budget as the Shank. Montana cost more, but they had no backing. But the messed up thing is, people appreciate Montana because there's a real heart story behind it. So I kind of don't get your point of view. Do you see what I mean? But overall, your second question, in terms of what we could do, is just you guys have to do it. It's not I just make my films. If you want to change it, go and make a film to change it. I'll put the challenge on you, than me. I hope I answered your question.
I was going to say, because you touched on your first film as sort of more urban, second one was a bit more sort of father-son action. Now you're doing like another one that's a bit more surrealist.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, like the different genres in your films. My favourite director is Kubrick, like you mentioned. And you said your peak would probably be in your 40s. Do you think you'll reach a point where your films you're catered towards one specific genre, or do you always want to be sort of...
I'd love to kind of, let's be honest, as a young black filmmaker, Somali filmmaker, young Somali people love it, and I could cater for that, What I really want to cater for is just the human condition, without sounding very poncy and arty, I just love the idea of just doing different genres that challenges me, because the more I learn about that, the more I learn about myself, That's what I think, that's what Kubrick did, he did from sci-fi to, David Linden to, Eyes Wide Shut. I love the idea of just changing textures and looks and characters, If you keep doing the same thing, I think you get bored, and it's boring. And some, directors could do that. Woody Allen does the same thing, in a sense, So does, who else? So, I'm not going to name directors, but they did that.
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton, not really. He's aesthetic. His eye is the same thing. That's the thing. He always, from Batman to, what's that? What's the guy with the head off?
Sleepy Hollow.
Sweeney Todd. And his costume is, he has a stamp. I call that the director's DNA. That's what you think you're getting confused with. Director's DNA, straight away. The minute you flip a channel, you switch on, you see the costume and the look, the angle. That's a Tim Burton film. You switch over, you see another look, that's Ridley Scott. Directors have a DNA, stranger than enough. They have a DNA on films that you can tell straight away. So Tim Burton's not really stuck in generic stuff. He always changes up. The thing is, he just uses the same people all the time, and he has the same aesthetic style. But one day, just to finalise and answer your question, is I love to do different genres. I'm excited about doing that. That's the thing that keeps me alive, and that's what I want to do. Next question. Thanks, buddy.
I know you were talking about taking the actors out to try and form a bond with them, but what other things do you discuss with them to try and get the performance that you want from them, specifically in like a urban movie like Shank?
For every film that I've done, with 2 films obviously, how I do it is I like to walk around, say for instance one character who, he would, Kida, I literally walked him around the location before we filmed there, a few weeks before, just to kind of show him, how the kids in that area live, how they react to certain things, how their mannerisms are. I made him feel like this, even though the film was set in 2015, back in 2009, I just want to kind of make him feel like that this is home for him, and that's how I like to work with. I like to pick out specific characters that I think they need a bit more kind of grounding in their characters, so I'll take the actors out in the real locations where I think, this is your home. This is where you'll be, this is what you'll react to certain people. For example, Montana, one character plays a dodgy cop. So I took him to Poplar, which is the most toughest market in London, I think. And we sat him down, and then within 5 minutes, not only did I see a guy robbing, like he had 2 steaks, like lamb legs, running at a co-op with police chasing him, right? That happens, and another guy comes up to us in a table and starts selling us cocaine. And then you've got another group of guys, undercover cops, arresting this other group of people. And that's within 5 minutes. I went, this is your location, and he took that on board. So I'm a person who believes in just taking them out, instead of just in a room and reading about and going, how do you feel? Take them to a real environment, or build them an environment. If it's a sci-fi film, I'll build a whole room and I'll just get pictures and sound effects and costume references, and I'll put them in there, lock the door, and go, that's your character, live that, that's your environment, So I'm very kind of like hands-on, It's almost getting a person that's kind of not person, but it's kind of like painting the person in, I like taking them there, just going, this is your shade, this is your colour, you react to it. That's how I work. I don't know if it's the right way, but that's how I like it.
Got a question up there?
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to... I've been thinking of what to ask you, and it's like I've known what I wanted to say, but I didn't quite know how to say it.
No refunds.
It's basically, you seem like a really cool person, and it's kind of surreal that you've done what you've done, and I guess what I'm saying is, like, have you always known who you were? Like, even though you always knew that you wanted to do film and that you liked film, had you already established your sense of individuality from a young age? And even though being like surrounded by loads of other people in the industry, do you feel like it's challenged you to question your true self of character?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, what centers me is my background. You know, and I don't want to say too much about it, but I used to be a street kid back in my country. Me and my brother and sisters literally lived in a hut, and we couldn't, our parents were, my mum was something happened to him, my dad. Most black men would run away, so we had to look after ourselves and fend for ourselves. So as a very young toddler, I would go out in the street and beg and steal if I can, back in my country. So the thing that and from a young age to come to this country, to have the opportunities I have to make the films that I do and be creative and do what I love, humbles me, and centers me. That's the thing, and nobody could test that. I can't be bought, I can't be questioned, nothing. I know where I've come from. I've fought so hard to be here and to be a film director. Not even fight, just do it. I have no fear, because you know what? The last thing I want to do is go back there and I've started from the bottom, which Drake said, but I'm not going to quote him. But I've started begging, and now I'm making films. So that humbles me, that centers me so much that I have no fear, from living in a hut barefoot, police trying to kill us, and to being at the BFI doing a Q&A. It's not a big achievement, but I worked hard for this and I want to go higher, and I don't let anybody not question it. It's just, this is who I am, take it or you leave it, and the only thing that keeps me kind of sane and happy is my family, making sure I look after them, have my good friends, and I could go and make films. Just having that fine balance in life. I don't chase fame, I don't chase celebrity mates, I don't care about that. That doesn't interest me. All I care about is family, my mates, my film, and Arsenal Football Club. It's just having that fine balance in life. So that's how I work, that's how I live. And if you have, I wish I could continue that. I like to have, my own kids, and one day I want to have my own kids. I've got 22 nephews and nieces, so I want to make films, kids films for them. So that's the plan I want to have. So I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. But I always say, just be cool, do your work, and shut up. That's it.
And we have time for 2 more questions. So one at the front.
And then one at the back.
How did you find working with young actors in your films? Were there any specific issues that arose, or like techniques that you found useful when getting the best performance from them?
I love working with young people. I enjoy it. It's one of the cool things about being, my job. But there are issues like time. You only have a few hours on set, so you've got to again plan ahead, because in this country there are rules and regulations for a kid to be on set. Sometimes they're only allowed on set. They could be on set for about, not on set, but they could come in at 7 in the morning, but you can only shoot them for about 2 hours the whole day. So you've got to work around them. And if you try and go over by half an hour, you've got these kind of nanny devils, I call them, that pull them away and go, you're not allowed to have them, So that's very frustrating. But again, as a director, you can't blame them, because they're kids, What you want to do is get the best performance out of them. So what you do is, I always do this thing where I just kind of, again, I come up with little games and, little secret handshakes that I have, and just kind of make it fun for them, so they feel comfortable. But there's funny stuff about working with kids as well, like Mikkel broke his voice, his voice got broken during the production, and it was, I can't get angry, it's nature, isn't it? So you just got to let it happen. But there's one day where he turned up and he had little bum fluff moustache, I was like, you can't have that, we're filming the whole film. and he got really upset. So, you know, those kind of things I find fun. I think working with young actors, really it's fun for me, you know, because I pick the right ones. Like there's one girl called Sinead, who is a little girl in Montana. She plays Jess. You know, she's only about 14 at the time, but she was just on it. You know, again, it's that language where she's on set, she does a take, she'll just look around and just go, and I go, all right, go again. Because she knows all she wants to do is to have a good performance. You know, she probably has 4 takes because of the time, but she's just so on it, she does it. So I always say kind of my fun part is working with young kids. But also, when we had Lars and Robbie G on set, what I used to do is grab people like Keeda and Mikkel and put them beside me near the monitor and point to Lars what Lars is doing on set, or Robbie G. And these guys would come on set, won't talk to anybody, they would just literally, as everybody's moving the lights and stuff like that, these guys would sit down, grab a cup, you know, whatever prop they had on the table, just redo their lines in their head, but they just move their hands and do this. And I'm watching and I tell Mikkel, do you know what he's doing? Or Keeda. And they wouldn't understand. I went, the reason they're doing this is to make the editor's life easier during a take. Because if I'm talking in one sequence of a scene, if I pick up at the right point all the time, then the editor could always cut me right and makes my performance very strong, you know? And those little things I love, you know. All I do is bring the young kids, watch the big guys do their thing, and they learn, and I enjoy that. So working with young kids is the best thing in the world for me. The next question. What's up, buddy?
What's up? You did music videos and then you went to into feature films. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you've hit a wall, or you're just static, or you're just staying in one place for too long?
Have I ever hit a wall? Yeah, at one point when I was doing, I mean, I've done over 80 music videos in my career, and that's like over 6 years. And at that point, I was hitting a wall because it was great tracks and working with the artists, but visually, they want the same thing. Because I had a style, they always wanted to do it. And the only way you could stop that is to be honest with yourself. Yeah, the money's good, but really, creatively, you know, who you are, you could just stagnate. So I kind of like just looked at myself and the work that I was doing, I was like, I'm done, I'm walking away. And I retired very early. I shouldn't have, but, you know, I'd rather do, if it gets boring, and if I'm not having like the fun that I want, then I'll walk away. So, not in a bad way, you know, I'll just take my crew and get them to do films with me, you know? That's how I see it. So yeah, creatives, and also sometimes creatively you hit a wall, you know? Sometimes you can't get an idea. Sometimes you know, like that scene that you want to write or that idea that you want to come up with doesn't come somehow. And I always do this. I always travel around London. You know, being a director is the coolest thing because all you need is an Oyster card, a couple of quid and a sandwich, packed lunch. And you could go to any museum around London, any location, sit down and think about your work, you know? That's how I do it. If I get stagnated in an idea, if I get creative block, get up, go to a museum, walk around, you know, just look at stuff, you know, talk to people. And immediately, within a day or two, I'll come up with a new idea, you know? Check out my Instagram. All I'm doing is hanging out in museums. I'm not lying to you. Boring life.
So,
Last question.
I think, yeah, this is going to be the last question.
Make it a good one.
In the creative industry, like, what separates the good from the great? Like, what makes like the great directors or actors reach that high platform?
What separates the good from the great?
Yeah, that when I say great, I mean like when you attain a higher platform. And
well, the thing is, for me, it's not even like, you know, it's not just. Well, I don't want to achieve greatness, you know. I just want to get my stuff right, and it's you guys that judge what's great or not. Do you see what I mean? All I want to do is keep going. How an idea that I have could go higher, you know? What kind of ideas I could have that could help me grow creatively, become a better director, a better person, you know? Greatness in terms of other people's eyes, I really couldn't care, because being a director, every time you make a film, you're going to have critics, you know? Everybody's going to walk around and stop you and go, you know what I thought about your film? Shit, you know? You're going to get that every day once you're creative, you know? So, everybody has an opinion. I ignore that. I just want to make myself happy, my family happy. And years later, if it's become something that people appreciate, good. You know, what makes me happy more than anything else is just kind of knowing that I've just made something and it made someone laugh. And if they think it's great, I'm happy. But really, if I made them laugh, cry, or just enjoy it, I'm happy. You know? So forget greatness or that. Just get on with your work, man.
Okay, so that's
Sorry, so was that negative?
No, it's fine.
Good. I'm just saying, get on with it, man.
So I think that's everything. If we have a
A
round of applause
for
Mo.
Mo.
Thank you.
We've got some networking drinks up in the blue room. I think that's going to be starting now or very shortly. So if you guys head up there, I think Mo's going to be there.
Yeah,
and
I'm
there's-
happy to answer any more questions over coffee or a cup of tea.
So yeah,
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Well done.
Well done.